What is going on? It is another episode of Podcast Prime. I'm your host, Josh Schmidt. And before we jump into this, I want to let you guys know my ebook, Master the Art of Podcasting, available now. There'll be a link in the description if you want to check it out. I'm also offering podcast audits. So if you want to go through your show and find out if the name is correct, if your title is good, your episodes are titled correctly so that people can find you organically, that is also available in the link in the description. Last thing, if you are thinking about doing your own ebook, the template, basically the book that I wrote, I turned into a template. So if you have an idea for your own book, you can just grab the template that I've created, also in the link in the description, and easily add your own pictures, the text that you've written, and you can have a really, really clean looking ebook in no time flat. So now this is the first episode with a guest, and Ritari, also AKA Game Pass Daily. You don't have to break that all down for us.
Sure.
And is guest number one. So you're new to the podcast game, and we want to get to
Yes.
know you a little bit. And the format of the show, you guys, when I have guests, is going to be talking about the podcast that they do, and then taking some podcast questions, and hopefully everybody can glean some of the information from this that they can then apply to their own shows and take things to the next level. So kick us off here. Let us know who you are, what you do.
Sure. So I'm Retri, and I
said
run.
Ritari.
That's okay. Almost everybody gets my name wrong.
Oh no.
Don't worry. It's kind of like Atari. Yeah. My name actually comes from Retri. Actually is kind of a joke. It's retry, said in a different way. It's an
Okay.
inside joke between me and a buddy. We were
So it's not a government name.
No, not a government name. More. I don't know.
That's
I don't
good. I'm
know.
glad parents weren't like, "Dang it, we should retry."
Yeah.
Like
let's do this over again. We screwed up the first time. So I'm Retri from Game Pass Daily. Basically, I am on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, making videos Monday through Fridays. Everything having to do with Game Pass, what's coming, what's going, news. We do a lot of news and rumor stories because news and rumors is pretty big, especially in the Game Pass space.
And Game Pass is
Acquisitions,
Xbox Game Pass. Just so for anybody listening
Xbox
that's
Game
not
Pass.
aware,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
for Xbox.
For anyone, for the uninitiated, that is just Xbox, PC, cloud, stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I am doing right now. We got more shows and I have some more ideas coming up, but I can't talk about it yet because I got to make sure I can actually pull off the stuff that I want to do. Because some of it, I'm reaching a little high, so
Yeah, good for you.
We'll see.
That's great. So, do you have shows going out in like audio form on like Apple Podcasts, or are you mainly focused on YouTube at the moment?
Nope. Right now, I am focused really a lot on Twitter and YouTube Shorts specifically because they are getting a lot better numbers than my long form content is on YouTube. So, when it comes to like the podcasting side, I am not the host in the podcast that I'm in. I'm actually a guest in those, but I do my own video content. My stuff is more based on video. I'm actually trying to make a play on Twitter as well and being a video guy on Twitter because mostly you see text and pictures. I'm trying to do something a little different for the Twitter community as well, so they see more high production value video content out there. And if Elon is going to do what he says he's going to do and try to monetize for content creators for video on the platform, then I feel like hopefully I'm getting kind of on the ground floor for what might be the future for Twitter.
Yo, you're not. I mean, Twitter is following the same suit as TikTok, YouTube, Facebook,
Right.
Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest. if you like all of my videos, we were just talking about a service that I use called repurpose.io. I do have a link in the description if you guys want to check that out as well. $25 a month, you make one TikTok and it puts it out on all the platforms I just said. I don't
Mhm.
Snapchat quite yet, but it does everything but Snapchat. And so it like my Twitter feed for Podcast Prime now, all video. That's it.
Right.
That's it. Because you can go in. I don't know if you guys have noticed, and they keep changing things up on Twitter, right? But
Yeah,
you
quickly.
can click a video and you can start scrolling it just like TikTok.
Yep.
That now happens. So it's only a matter of time. So I think it's a great play. I don't think it's a bad play at all either, like focusing on short form content, right? Like TikTok is
Yeah.
my main platform right now. As I grow this thing, that's what will grow the podcast. Of course, I'm going to shoot for, SEO and organic reach, but even my Nintendo show, we've topped out with organic traffic. You can't type Nintendo without seeing that show. So now it's
Mhm.
up to me with short form content to market and get in front of more people and get them interested to head over and go watch and listen. So,
Yeah. I mean, I'm still brand new to Game Pass Daily. I've been making content for a very long time. So I'm not new to making video content. I'm actually have a television background. I worked in television for almost 19 years.
oh, that's
So this
awesome.
isn't new to me, but being the face is new to me. I'm usually the guy behind the scenes, trying to help other people create their content. I have a lot of editing experience that I've done the last 20 years as well. But so it's kind of weird for me to be the face of my own thing because I wasn't really wanting to do that. But I think video is the way to go. Short form for me is doing infinitely better than my long form content. I'm seeing the numbers and they're at a 100-to-1 ratio. It's kind of bananas. But I'm still new, still growing, and excited to learn more. I'm learning a lot from the podcast that I'm on right now, which is the Xbox Factor podcast with Boom and the great panel. And you've been on plenty of times. So that's also new to me. You know, my advice to a lot of people who are thinking about doing podcasting in general is I just reached out. I did took my phone, sent a DM to Boom and said, "Hey, if you're ever looking for a guest, I would love to come on your show. This is what I do." And the very, he like I think the next day he said, "Do you want to be on next week?" And I was like, "Oh, sure." Got a little nervous because I do have some anxiety. So, like, being in front of the camera can be a little nerve wracking for some. But my suggestion is to say yes to as many things that scare you because they end up being the best things usually that you do. At least that's my experience. So I've been trying to say yes to everybody.
That's great advice. That's
Yeah.
it's great advice. Like you know, any opportunity that comes your way, take advantage of it because you never know.
Yeah.
It could be three more people that hit that follow button that realize who you are, that like your vibe, that end up following, and that's how you start growing your tribe, growing your community, and
Absolutely.
that's really what it's all about, and it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. This does not happen
100%.
overnight. Like it doesn't happen
Absolutely.
overnight. And so
No.
you gotta keep the course, keep your chin up, realize you're gonna take some blows along the way. And
Yep.
it's all about learning, it's it's
Yeah.
it's
I
all
think
about
you just
learning.
gotta it's tough. There's been a lot of burnout for people who do podcasts too. Like this, the whole "can you make it to the seventh episode" type of thing. And I think people just you gotta love what you're doing. If you are incapable of making this content without making money, then you probably shouldn't do it. Like if at least in my opinion, you have so you can keep going. You know what I'm saying? you have to have the passion there first. It's got to be able to be something that you would make no matter what. I have no problem with monetizing. I think people should make money doing this. It's a ton of work. It's a ton of work. I do not like when people get all taboo and weird when it comes to the money thing. Because why not? Why shouldn't you? I work as hard at doing this than I ever did in my 9 to 5. Harder, actually. Usually, a lot of the guys like us put way more than 40 hours in a week into what we do. So, why shouldn't you make some money? For me, I'm not making nothing right now. But do I plan on making some money and monetizing? Absolutely. And there's nothing to be ashamed of that thought process in my personal opinion. So, and I know you would probably agree.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. Like there is no reason to think that you shouldn't treat this like a business. You know, that this can't make you that you can't. I mean, for one, I wouldn't even put it out there that I'm not trying to make money doing this, right? It's like
Right.
you're not going to trick the universe into thinking like, "Oh, you're being so humble. Let me now bestow upon you all these riches." Like, no, if you want to have a business, make it a business. If you have people that give you flack about that, they're not your clients. They're not your audience. Get
Exactly.
them out.
You don't
Like,
want those people.
no, you don't need them
They were
around
never going to
anyway.
help you out in the first place.
Not at all. So you find the people that get behind what you're doing and grow your community that way. You know, like
Yeah.
I would rather see people's mindsets change on that. If they're like, no, I create content because I, from the moment I started creating content, it was about business. That
Hmm.
doesn't mean it doesn't add value. That doesn't mean it's about like trying to
Right.
be a snake oil salesman. It's not, none of it is that. It's, you can still be legit and be honest and be upfront, but I don't work for free, you know? And
Absolutely.
I don't honestly prefer many hobbies that don't make me money because we live in a world where anything can be monetized. I mean, I play video games and get paid for it. That's wild to me, you know?
Hmm.
I talk into a microphone and get paid for it. I could say,
Right.
"Oh, I don't want that," but no, I do.
Of course you want that.
It's much better than going and working for somebody else, you know, and making them
100%.
money. Like why you know, so there's nothing there, you're absolutely right. There's nothing wrong with saying you want to make money from this. And the beauty of it is we're content creators and we get creative even in our monetization strategy,
Right.
you know? That's why
100%.
I literally finished writing my book and I was like, "Yo, I want to make this easy for anybody that wants to write a book. If you want to monetize, you know, anything that you're doing, here, here's the template. $30 and you use it as many times as you want. Hell, once
Right.
you're done with it and you've modified it your way, delete all your photos and create your own template and sell it. I don't care. There's plenty of us in the world. Like, you know,
Right.
you're going to
Right. It's
monetize
kind
your
of the,
audience.
like,
So,
all ships can rise type of thing.
yeah,
There's enough
exactly.
room for all of us. A lot of people might see some content and go, "Oh, there's plenty of it out there. I- I'm just going to be another middle-aged white guy speaking into a mic. How is that new?" Because it's you. That's why it's new. Because you are different than everybody else. What you have to say might not align with what everyone else is doing. So they're buying you. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
it's not necessarily about the idea of your podcast or your videos or your content or whatever you're doing. It's about you're selling yourself a lot of the time too. As long as you can throw in some personality and you're not too boring there. But
That's what I struggle with typically.
right. That's
Typically
why I
just
do short form. Yeah, if I do it too long, people are going to be like falling asleep.
I love it. I love it. Well, one of the things I wanted to cover is like I know you haven't even launched your audio stuff yet. I'm assuming you've
No.
probably got some questions when it comes to that. So, you know, fire away.
Yeah, I have some ideas on possibly I've had a bunch of podcast ideas and I worry about being able to entertain people for an hour, hour and a half. I know I don't have to make it that long, but I do worry about being the host. It's a lot different. There's a lot of good hosts out there. who can play off of other people and are really good at hitting all the points that they have to do when they're talking to their audience and interacting with their co-hosts and whatnot. What I'm curious is, how do you practice getting better as a host that has other co-hosts and playing off of people? Is it just as simple as doing it and practicing it, or what advice would you give, I guess, in that regard?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's a craft, right? So like any craft you practice. And my thing is I always make sure as I've hosted numerous podcasts. I mean, like a lot of podcasts. So I've been at it for a long time. You want to understand the art of the interview, which quick little side note, that is the next book I'm working on, because I know that there's a lot of people that have this very question, that they're like, how, so kind of going into the detail of that very thing. But the other side is just making sure it's like radio, right? No dead air.
Yeah,
So making sure that there's just not dead air, and always being able to, come up with a question on the fly. It's an interesting thing where you're listening while you interview, knowing
yeah,
you may have questions that are in the, you know, in the chamber, but then you can also listen for things that you can play off of. And,
right.
the I think there's an element of, and you can probably attest to this, as soon as I hit record, things change a little bit, right?
Yeah, you're not 100%. I'm still trying to get past that.
Yeah,
It's like everything, you're in the green room, you're all talking to everybody before, and then somebody goes, "We're about to go live." And then my heart starts going,
right?
and I know up here I don't have a reason to be scared. I don't have a reason to be nervous, but you can't help it sometimes when you have hundreds of people that are live, and then after the fact thousands are going to see it later. So you start questioning yourself, like, am I a fraud? Should I even be here? Am I good enough to talk on this subject? Um,
Yeah,
but
well,
that's why I try to just say yes to
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Because
you're only gonna
whatever,
get
I mean,
you'll only get better at it, and just like I messed up your name at the beginning,
right.
instead of
That's
stopping,
right.
which we could have done, we could have stopped,
Yep.
and I could have started the show over. I'm like,
Right.
"No, you know what? How can we make this like, maybe there's a joke, right? Like maybe
Well, I didn't
there's."
want to say where my name came from because I didn't know how PG
Oh, I
or why
see.
I'm called Retry. I
Okay.
don't know if you're PG-13 rated R or what, like what.
Yeah, yeah, I don't really,
Just
I
didn't want
mean,
to tell a story.
I know for YouTube prefers things to be a little cleaner, that's really the only reason I
Okay,
do it,
then I won't
so
tell the story of why my name is Retry. It just
gotcha.
has to do with video games, retry, but there's a reason it came out Retry, but we won't go into that. I'll save that for my own show where it'll probably be rated PG-13/R. So,
I got you. No, that's nothing wrong with that. It's fantastic. The 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 thing that I think I've worked on the most is trying to get people back into a conversation mode right after I hit record.
yeah.
So that's why, like, if we started the show and I've already screwed up your name, well, now I've already probably screwed up more than anybody else is going to during this interview, right? And so,
Yeah.
like, I'll just leave it. I'll just, because it's like, I don't like, one, that's how conversation goes. If I was introducing you to somebody, you would be like, "Hey, actually, it's Retry, not,"
Yeah.
and
Never,
so
and it's not a big deal anyways, because almost I think one person's got my name right after I told him it. So I take no offense to that. That it's not a big deal. So it's just a name. I think it's weird things like that where a lot of people would stop and like, oh man, we got to do this over, and just letting that kind of roll off of you. And like you said, play with it, make it a joke or whatever. you know, Sorry, I screwed up your name, whatever. Move on. That's not important. What's important is everything else we're gonna talk about, not getting my weird name that no one can pronounce correct.
well, and the other thing is too, is I recommend show notes, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're just starting out, have an outline. That's going to keep your show flowing.
Yeah.
If you, and you're going to know, it's going to depend on the kind of show you're doing, right? If you're doing kind of like a news show, like latest topics on whatever, have those things outlined so you're staying on point. You can kind of watch your time a little bit, like, hey, we're doing an hour show, we got 4 topics, let's do 15 minutes each, and kind of just, and it allows you to go, hey, the conversation has kind of died, let's move into topic number 2. So
Right.
have those show notes ready to go, and then just watch how things change over time. Like, I I am at a point that I don't need show notes. Like, I don't. But when I'm recording by myself, I'll typically throw them up as an, like, even if it's just an outline, right? But
Yeah.
if I know I'm doing, like, I just prefer these conversation style podcasts where it's like, hey, I just told you ahead of time, let's talk about you and let's talk about your questions. And then we rock and roll. And I mean, honestly, if I was a great host, I probably would have said, hey, ahead of time, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. You could have prepared a little bit more. But at the same time, I'm
I
like, wait, it's just, this is how I roll. And
yeah.
I mean, I'm doing a whole new I'm launching 2 new projects as we speak. And the other one is another conversational podcast that touches on all things like entrepreneurship, mental health, all that kind of stuff. Sat down with
Right.
somebody that was like, okay, and I'm like, just, I'm gonna hit record. We're gonna start talking. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. And then I've heard numerous times people tell me like, yo, I was super nervous at first, and then this is actually not as serious as, and don't get me wrong, we're not live right now. Sometimes
Right.
that's a
Yeah.
factor too,
That
but
can definitely
it,
play a factor, especially for new guys like me. Like that, I did ask you that. I think it was my first question when we were talking about doing this. I was like, "Is it live or is it recorded?" You were like, "Recorded." Instantly, I'm like, "Phew, okay, that makes it this much easier." You know, it's a mental thing that I'm still working on, and I think a lot of people don't do this because of that as well. Um, that's why it's important. Maybe even baby steps, right? You start off, don't do live. You don't have to jump into the deep end right away. Just record this stuff and then try, live later on once you get your format and you feel more comfortable. You know, I probably will not start off live for my own podcast. I don't think. Um, and I'll probably eventually go to live because that's the goal. Like I love the whole live format because things are more fluid. It's like you said, it's very much like a conversational podcast. Things can you have all these preset things you're going to talk about, and then people in chat can veer your entire conversation, and you go in a different direction all of a sudden. I do that a lot on Boom's podcast. I'll see some great input in the chat, and I try to make sure that I involve the chat, which also makes people feel like they're involved and it's a real community. So I'll see someone's chat and be like, "Oh, this guy just came up with a really good point or whatever," and I'll say it during the show, and we might pivot a little bit and start talking about what that person was adding to the conversation, which is something I really like in podcasting. I'm a big fan of. So I just thank you, Boom, for allowing me to be part of your podcast family on the Xbox Factor podcast. Plug. You're welcome.
yeah, I love it. That's great. Yeah, he's an incredible guy. I love Boom. And th- my probably first 4 years just guessing, probably not live. It
Okay.
wasn't it was it and I went I go hard on things, right? So like my
Hmm.
first podcast was the Photography Tips HQ podcast. It was all about photography tips, obviously, and would just interview different photographers and how their business journey was going. And then that transitioned into the N64 Gaming podcast, which was terrible branding, but I was N64 Josh, so that's just what I went with. But I ended up
Right.
interviewing 20 26 indie devs in less than 30 days, and then did
What?
retro shows once a week also to talk about the 64. And in the 1 month, I did 30 episodes. And
Wow.
like yeah, I was doing I was working 410s at the time. So Fridays I would just get everybody scheduled, and I would just do, you know, I would
And you
do
would just rapid fire on that Friday and
yeah,
have blocks of time and go.
yeah, every hour was
Okay, how
another guest.
early in your podcasting career was that? Because that would scare 99.9% of us. Like, that seems so ballsy to me that you would do something like
Within the
that
first year,
rapid fire.
like after I walked away from photography tips, maybe a year and a half of podcasting,
Wow.
year and a half.
Okay.
Like, and I mean, it was incredible. I had indie studios like Yacht Club Games, right? Shovel Knight,
Yeah.
like before they were really known, you know.
Right.
Some were indie devs that just like didn't really have much of a maybe they didn't have much of a following or any game that was very well known or whatever, but I got to do my part to help spread the word for them. And so, you know, it's just all about trying to add value on both ends to the people listening as well as the people coming on the show.
Right. So
So
your first podcast was interviewing, it was an interview based podcast
my very
with the photography?
yeah,
So right off the rip, you did interviews.
yep.
That's crazy to me. Cuz that to me feels like you diving into the deep end.
Mhm.
Maybe for people like me who's got like phobia and stuff like that, and the whole interview process as being the host scares the bejesus out of people like me. So for me, that's like wild that someone that's the first thing they would do.
To me, it was
I
less
mean,
scary
kudos to you.
because it let me talk with another person,
Right.
you know? And like it's the connect I mean, and what I did to learn all this stuff was listen to podcasts. So
Right.
it was some people doing solo shows, some people doing interviews, and that's how I was able to jump in with both feet. And so it I don't know, it didn't here's the other thing though. Like I can't just say, "Oh, before getting on a podcast, I did nothing before that." No, I was a performer. I've been playing like I've been performing live music ever since I was in high school. You
Okay.
know,
There it is.
like I was
That does help.
I was in ministry. I used to preach in front of, you know, youth groups and kids. I traveled to Russia twice and we played music over there for like 800 people. Like we were selling out shows over there and or not we weren't selling tickets, but like we were, you know, we were having to turn people away. We were
Right.
packing the house. And so I've got over that fear of being in front of people real quick. Like even I mean even as a little kid, this Christmas time, I'm like 4 years old. Everybody else is singing Silent Night. I moved to the very front of the stage and start doing the robot. My mom was so embarrassed, right? But that was just me. It was just who I am. Like I've kind of always known I needed to be in front of the camera and
Right. Right.
and just doing my thing. And so but I think anybody can do it. I think, you know, even whatever it is you set your mind to with enough practice, I think you can do it. Even if it's like singing and stuff. Of course, there's some natural
Right.
ability there, but if you learn the techniques and how to manipulate your voice, you could probably come up with something. So, uh, yeah, I just say just go. Like honestly,
Just do it.
anytime you're doing
Right.
something
Like you got to
scary,
start.
yeah, and
And you're not
anytime
going to be good in the beginning.
no,
Like when I started making content in the beginning, it's like if I watch any of my really old stuff, it's so cringe. I'm like, oh God, I hate that word too, cringe. But it's so awful to just watch myself. I don't like the sound of my voice. Most people don't. Uh, I don't want, I'm like, I don't look good. I'm not a supermodel. I sound like crap. I look like crap. No one cares about my opinion. Eh. Like you kind of have to, you got to get past that. If you can't get past that, you're not going to be able to do this stuff anyways. So, and people, once you start getting followers, you realize people do care. People put value into what you're saying because you are unique, not to sound corny, but that's just the truth of the matter. We're all different. You're going to get you are gonna get haters online. I already got a bunch. It's gonna happen, but I decided a little advice here for people: embrace them, love them. I love my haters. I want to hug them. I want to kiss them. Every time they send me mean stuff, all I see is you just gave me engagement. Thanks, dummy. All you did was
Right.
help me.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
love your haters as you want to love your regular supporters.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to say, I just want to hug them till they have a hard time breathing. And then,
That's right. A nice bear hug
yeah.
there.
And also thanks for the ad revenue.
Right.
That was my favorite comment on YouTube. I'm like, hey, you
Exactly.
know, and that was always the like I would usually, and honestly, my favorite reply to anybody, especially on TikTok, is really. I just say
Keep
really
it simple.
with no question mark, no period, no
Yep.
exclamation, no punctuation, just really. Because what does it do? It brings them back.
Yep.
So
I've done that technique too.
I
They
just
can't
let them.
help themselves. They're like, that's all he's got. That's all he's got. Oh, I'm going off on this guy.
Yeah,
And I'm like, yes, thank you. Keep
yeah.
going.
And I'll have people then comment, the amount of reallys in these comment sections are hilarious, right? Because it's just like, I don't like, their opinion means nothing, but their engagement means more people
Means
are gonna see my
everything.
content. So,
Yeah.
like, bring it, like, just have
That's what
fun
I
with
try
it.
to tell Boom too. He gets like really mean super chats sometimes, and his wife had to explain him. It's money. You're like, it's fine. Well, we'll take the haters too, because I guess he used to return it. He used to turn down the money and like be like, no, I don't want it. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, no,
Embrace it.
charge them double.
That's right.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much. Plug all your things so that see if people can connect with you if they're interested on the Xbox side of gaming, and we'll wrap this
Sure.
thing up.
Yeah. So you can follow me at Retry on Twitter, or if you want to follow the Game Pass, the Xbox stuff, that is Game Pass _ daily for Twitter, Game Pass daily for TikTok and YouTube. And you can watch all our videos and get all the information you can ever possibly want on Xbox Game Pass, PC, and cloud stuff. So that's what we got.
Amazing. I love it. Guys,
Appreciate it.
all the socials for Podcast Prime will be in the description, as well as Retry's links. And of course, remember to check out my book, Master the Art of Podcasting. And if you are a podcaster that would like to be a guest, hit me up. You can email Josh at podcastprimenow.com. And we will see you guys in the next one. Bye now.